Good morning, Westside. And for those of you that are not sure why I just said good morning, Westside, welcome to Westside Unitarian Universalist Church, where compassion leads us to work for justice and equality. I'm glad you came here today, and it is my hope you will find something here that nourishes your heart, feeds your mind, and grows your spirit. My name is Tanner Trask, and I will be your worship leader this morning. Be you a spiritual seeker, an atheist, or a theist, Westside is a community of many beliefs, genders, and sexualities. A community of diverse cultural, racial, and class backgrounds. A community of varied abilities and gifts. Some here find inspiration in the great books, others in the great outdoors, and others still in great conversations. Whoever you may be, all are welcome in our inclusive congregation. Newcomers and old friends alike, we say, welcome. At Westside, we are raising the next generation of Unitarian Universalists, and we want them to know that they are an important part of our community. Several years ago, we chose to be radically inclusive and to adopt a multi-generational worship where our services include all family members, to welcome to all children and youth of all ages. There are a number of announcements included in your order of service today. Please take any of them with you that you might need for reminders this week or to share with others. For those of you joining us online or visiting us today, if you're not already on our mailing list and you'd like to be, sign up by clicking the link at the bottom of our westsideu.org website. And for those of you in person with us, please take a moment to silence any device. And this morning, the reflection will be given by Sharm Robarts. She is enjoying her retirement with a good mix of free time and busy time. She's also involved in a number of volunteer projects around here, serving on the board of DRC Solutions for Homelessness, distributing food to neighbors in need at First Street Mission, occasionally serving at Taste Community Project, a pay-as-you-can restaurant not that far from here over on South Main. She's also a grief and life coach and spends time with family and friends with special interest in 3 grandparents. Welcome. We'll hear from her in a bit. And now I invite you to take a deep breath. And from wherever you are, settle into this sacred space that we create, and let us worship together as we listen to this morning's prelude, What a Wonderful World by Bob Thiel and George David Weiss, performed by Dr. Yuki Kumamoto and Darren Kote.
I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them blue for me and you, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see skies of blue, clouds of white, the bright blessed day, the dark sacred night, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, are also on the faces of the people going by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They're only saying, I love you. I hear babies cry, and I've watched them grow. They'll learn much more than I'll ever know. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I think to myself, what a wonderful world.
opening words today are Call from Beyond by the Reverend Susan Maggin. From beyond the playful summer clouds, beyond the earth's thin blue line, from beyond the bright moon and meteor showers, we hear the call to look and listen carefully. Turn away from a world that buys and sells happiness, to fully experience the luring whisper of your heart's truth. Why not today? Why not now? We are here and together at home in this evolving place, home in this ever-changing breath and body, home in this dewy morning, even as it reaches toward a hot, high noon. We hear the call from far beyond and deep within, and we do not hear it alone. Come, let us worship together. I'd like to invite Leo Ty Bennett up to light our chalice this morning. The chalice represents the Unitarian Universalist Association, or UUA, and is a symbol of the Unitarian Universalist faith. The flaming chalice is a symbol of both our heritage of our past and the light of hope within this church today.
Our chalice lighting words for the Web of Life are by Paul Sprecher. We light this chalice for the web of life which sustains us, for the sacred circle of life in which we have our being, for the earth, the sky, above and below, and for our Mother Earth, and for the mystery.
Thank you. And our opening hymn is number 326, Let All the Beauty We Have Known, in the gray hymnal. Please stand as able and are so moved and join our song leader today, Please remain standing and join me in our affirmation. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest of truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to work for justice through action, to serve others in community, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with creation. Thus do we covenant with one another. You may be seated. And for anyone that's interested in a close-up view, whether you're young or just young at heart, you can come up with our Time for All Ages, our Director of Lifespan Religious Education, Nikki Kennedy.
Yeah. Does your yard show that it's really hot outside as much as mine? How many of you guys have been able to play in the water this summer? Have you been? So if you jump into a puddle of water, what happens to that water? Does it just stay there? What does it do, James? It splashes. So your energy of you jumping into the water makes the water move because it gives the water energy, doesn't it? That's kind of cool. We're going to talk about science today. How's that? It affects the whole body. That's exactly right. It affects all of it. All of it. So who loves science? I didn't hear that very well. Who loves science? Oh, good answers. Do you think we could get a little bit more excitement for science if I try that one more time? You think so? Who loves science? Oh, that was much better. I appreciate that. That is so much better. So that was a little bit of science experiment alone right there, wasn't it? Well, today we're going to talk about physics. Have you ever heard of the word physics? Yeah? Many times. Do you know what physics is? You're learning about it? Well, let me help you. I'm going to give everybody a definition so we can all start with the same definition as we talk about it today. It's the study of matter and energy. And it can be different kinds of energy. The two most common types of energy that we're going to talk about today are potential energy and kinetic energy. So remember those words, potential energy and kinetic energy. Do you know what kinetic energy is? Yes. Exactly. I know you can't hear this amazing person going into 8th grade, but she was right. It's the energy of movement. Thank you. You are awesome. Do you know what potential energy is, anyone? It's energy that's stored that can be used. It's energy stored that can be used. So, if energy is stored to be able to use for things like movement, and we've talked about two important kinds of energy, there's one rule about energy I want to talk to you about, and it's a really big one. It's an important one. Are you guys ready? Energy is neither created nor destroyed. Let me repeat that. Energy is never created nor destroyed. It's one of the most important principles in physics. In fact, it's a law. It's called the first law of thermodynamics. And it's one of the most to me, it's one of the most spiritually meaningful rules of science. In short, this means that energy never goes away. It just changes. So I want to show you something that goes from potential to kinetic. Now, you have to use a little bit of an imagination, and I'm going to stand up. We have a pendulum with us today. This is a pendulum I made of things that I had with me to make a pendulum, so you guys can do the same thing anywhere you are. And I'm going to stand up for everybody to see. This is simply a box that has a hook on it and a name tag string to make a pendulum, right? Really easy, really, really easy. Okay, so when I set it down on the ground, is it moving? What if I lift it up to my waist? What happens? Does it move a little bit? What happens if I lift it as high up as I can? It moves a lot more. So there's potential energy and kinetic energy in there. So potential and kinetic. So will one of you raise it up a little bit? One of you, Amelia, will you come over here and hold it for me? Just raise it up a little bit. So it moves, the arc just moves a little bit, doesn't it? Now wait, raise it way up. Awesome. Alice, will you come do the same thing? You hold it, the floor, and then lift it way up, way high. Look how much faster it moved, the faster she moved it. So now I want to talk with you guys how this relates to us, to our potential energy and to our kinetic energy. We need to move. We need to move. We need to charge up our potential energy. We have to recharge our batteries for them to work. We have to add more logs on the fire for the fire to grow. We have to lift up the ball for it to swing back and forth. We have to expand our amount of energy, of potential energy, to change the world. Because once we run out of potential energy, we can't keep moving. We stop, we burn out, we give up. One of the most important things for us is to make sure we're constantly being recharged with potential energy so we don't run low. Sometimes that might mean we don't move forward as quick as we want, but that's okay. If we run out of potential energy, we have to stop completely. We all have different ways to recharge our batteries. Some people meditate, some people maybe binge Netflix, some people take a nap, some people make art, some people play with their friends, some people like to paint, some people like to cook in the kitchen to recharge their batteries. I want you to think about, actually, I wonder what some of the ways are you guys like to recharge your energy. And however you do it, however you keep moving forward, I hope you will. I hope you will find the time to recharge your potential energy and spend a little extra time this week doing it. And I see a lot of yawns up here, so I also hope you guys all get a good nap today to recharge yourselves. Have a great week, everyone. Thanks for being here.
All right, and we're going to sing our kids back to their seats with number 414 in the gray hymnal as we leave this friendly.
As we leave this friendly place, love give light to every face. May the kindness which we learn light our hearts till we return.
Good morning. My name is Brenda McKeon, not Carol Kappa, and I'm your pastoral care associate this morning. In our community here at Westside, we make time each week to share pieces of our lives with one another. Please submit your joys and concerns to the team by completing one of these forms at the welcome desk, by emailing us at pastoralcare@westsideu.org, or by contacting any of the team members. Several of us are here. You can see us. We share our concerns with one another today, knowing that our sorrows come into each other's lives, knowing that together we offer them comfort. We have several concerns. The first one is from John Barnes. Linda McDonald, who was a former member of our church, has been moved closer to home. She is now at Encompass Rehab Hospital. Her address will be in the newsletter if any of you want to send cards. And for those of you who want to see her, come after PT, which is at 3 o'clock. Next one is from Rosario Sarmiento Ayala. And Rosario is recovering from having her gallbladder removed this week. She's doing much better now that she has had it removed. And she thanks all of us for the love and prayers that she has received. The next one is from Myrtle McMahon. There is a memorial service for former member Mignon Vogel this next Saturday at August the 5th at Pathways UU Church. And the next one is another one from Myrtle, and it's from yesterday afternoon. Brenda and I attended a memorial service for a 23-year-old who had taken his life. He was only 23, and he suffered from bipolar illness. We've known him since he was 4. He is Myrtle's grandson, David's and his wife Jill's brother. It was one of the most moving services that I've ever been to. Our family and extended family were all in attendance. Their service lasted an hour, and the 7 youngsters who were there did well. PJ, who was the had previously been on a couple of cruises with us, and had also even joined us at our last Christmas. The minister, obviously, he and the minister developed a very close relationship, and I was so proud of my grandson and his wife, who both contributed to the service. We also share our joys with one another, knowing too that joys come into our lives, knowing that together our voices can rise in a chorus of celebration. And we have one joy, and it is from Tanner and his wife, Melissa. And Tanner has been accepted into the Meadville Lombard Seminary in Chicago. At the end of the 3-year program, he'll graduate with a Master's of Divinity and will most likely meet most of his requirements for ministerial fellowship in the UUA. We'll still be here in Texas for now, and Tanner will only need to be in Chicago a couple of times, a couple of weeks a year. Not every joy or concern can be shared openly in this community. Some must be shared eye to eye or simply held in our hearts. We make space each week in musical centering, knowing that the life and experience of each person matters, and together our light shines bright. So, if you all will join us in singing 123, Spirit of Life.
Spirit of life, come unto me. My heart, all the stirring of compassion, blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life shape of justice. Who hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me.
I'm going to re-invite Leo Tai to the stage to share our meditation.
My name is Leo Tai Bennett. I invite you to relax your mind and body and join in a time of meditation. It will begin with an introduction before we move into a minute of silence. Our Tibetan prayer bowl will sound to signal the start of your own meditation, prayer, or reflection, and it will sound again at the end. Our introduction this morning is Bring Us Close to the Earth by Reverend Lynn Cox. Spirit of life, ground of our being, root of unified mystery, growing into myriad branches of expression. Bring us together now. Bring us close to the earth, ear to the whispering grass, quietly, attentively, waiting with slow breaths, listening for the very stones to cry out with their rocky stories of tectonic plates meeting and parting, meeting their mineral memories of Hadean days, molten rocks flowing and joining their ancient legends of stars born out of the collapse of other stars. Help us to remember. Help us to piece together our oneness with matter, our oneness that matters. With one more deep breath, may we rise, star stuff, walking and rolling across the surface of an impossible blue-green planet. May we join together to heal what is divided. May we find wholeness within, without, among, between. Eternal source, seed of the universe, help us to grow in peace. So be it. Blessed be. Amen. May it be so. Blessed be, and amen.
The great end of all the world's faith traditions is to bring the human being closer to the divine by acts of creation and compassion. In the spirit of generosity, Westside chooses today, like our other fifth Sundays of the month, to reach inward to our own community in the At Westside, we value the times we can gather together and share our lives with one another. As our church community grows, we want to expand the opportunities for fun and games, celebrations and sorrows, and memorials and ceremonies. Our fifth Sunday plate offerings will help offset the cost of these special offerings so that everyone in our church community can celebrate and participate. Please give as you can so that we can expand our game nights, potlucks, picnics, special outdoor services, celebrations of life, and community outreach programs. While we take the offering, we'll enjoy the musical offering performed by Yuki and Darren, Take Me Home, Country Road.
Almost heaven, West Virginia, Blue Ridge Mountain, the Shenandoah River. Life is old there, older than the trees, younger than the mountains, blowing like a breeze. Country road, take me home to the place I belong, West Virginia, Mountain Mama, take me home, country road. All my memories, they gather around her, the miner's lady, the stranger to blue water. Dark and dusty, painted on the sky, the misty taste of moonshine, a teardrop in my eye. Country roads, take me home to the place where I belong, West Virginia, Mountain Mama, take me home, country road. I hear a voice in the morning hour, she calls me, the radio that reminds me of my home far away. And driving down the road, I get a feeling that I should have been home yesterday, yesterday. Country roads, take me home to the place where I belong, West Virginia, Mountain Mama, take me home, country road.
thank you all for putting into practice the spiritual virtue of generosity. Our giving connects us to the wider web of our community. Thank you for also the members for keeping your stewardship commitment current to keep our congregation's important work going. And I guess I've never fully understood, and I probably never will, sort of the confluence of events that have sort of brought the sort of overall musical talent we have here at Westside. And I'm okay with not understanding it. I'm just going to enjoy it. Next is our reading. It's Change Alone is Unchanging by Heraclitus of Ephesus. It is in your prayer hymnal if you want to take a look at it, number 655. He writes, "Whosoever wishes to know about the world must learn about it in its particular details. Knowledge is not intelligence. In searching for the truth, be ready for the unexpected. Change alone is unchanging. The same road goes both up and down. The beginning of the circle is also its end. Not I, but the world says it. All is one, and yet everything comes in season." And now I'd like to turn our pulpit over to our guest speaker today, Sharm Robards.
Thank you, Tanner. Thank you all for having me here. It's been a minute since I was here. In fact, I don't know, I think it might have been 2014 or 15. Anyway, months ago, when your worship team asked me to come here, July 30th seemed like such a long way off, but here we are right now, nearly to August. And I think what's funny about that is we adults seem to need to comment on how fast time flies. That's what we do, right? Like nobody's ever said that before. We say, you know, what happened? Where did the week go? Dr. Seuss says, and y'all know Dr. Seuss writes for adults as much as for children. He says, "Oh, how did it get late so soon? It's December before it's June. Oh, how the time has flown." Well, you know, there's a little bit of wisdom in thinking about time, and I'm going to say just a little bit more about that. Today, the title is Wisdom of Mary Oliver, but a subtitle might be Figuring Out What Matters Most. I think it's kind of our ongoing work to figure out, you know, what shape good will take at a given time. A bit of wisdom here is not so wise over there. A good word right here is out of context over here and the wrong thing. And so we have to have some humility, we have to have some attentiveness and a bit of grace for ourselves and others as we go about this business of figuring out what matters most. But actually, I don't think it takes much figuring for us to say and to agree that what matters most, if we took a vote, we would say our relationships. And right next to it, we would say time, the time we have been given to be in those relationships. And whether we're talking about our personal relationships or our casual, everyday, people at the grocery store, kids riding through the neighborhood, or our civic and communal relationships, the very health of our existence depends on how we navigate the waters of our life together. And success will require keeping perspective on the rush of time, on the imperatives of work and the imperatives of our own needs and wants, on the pressures of bias, and on all that impact of what others think we should think and do. Keeping perspective on that will help us make sure that what matters most actually gets the most attention. So, I know I'm stating the obvious to say that relationships and time are the main thing, but a wise person told me a long time ago that sometimes we have to state the obvious because in the press of life and in the mess of life, the obvious can just go right over our heads. So that's why I'm doing this today. So I have to tell you that my preparation for this message was interrupted a couple of weeks ago by news from a friend of mine who was told that she must consider hospice. She has outrun the diagnosis that she got about a year and a half ago. And I had already chosen to talk about relationships and time. I had already run across a quote by Leonard Cohen that says, "It's so lightly we are here. In love we are made, in love we disappear." I'd already chosen all of that. I'd already decided just about everything I was going to say. And though it wasn't a surprise to me to hear this news from her, it stopped me, and I feel a bit of urgency about this topic. What matters most are our relationships and our perspective on time. Now, on time, do we get out of here at 11:30? I don't want to go too long. I'm a little worried. So let me just talk a little bit about this. So there's this old story that I learned growing up in church, and maybe some of you learned it too. It was about some wise and foolish builders. The wise man, never woman because it was the 60s, the wise man built his house upon a rock, and some rain came and some floods came, and that house stood firm. And then there was the foolish man, and never a foolish woman, built a house on the sand, and the rains and the floods came, and that house went splat. And when we were kids, we loved that splatting. That was the best part. And we didn't want to splat in unison. We wanted to all take our turns splatting, and we would get loud, and we'd want to sing it again because that was the fun part. And I know when we teach kids, we got to do the fun part. But as adults, when we think about someone else's house falling down, someone's life falling down, well, in my tradition, it's not very Jesus-y to be happy about it. And yet, aren't we tempted to want people to get what's coming to them? And yet, the course of wisdom, and in my tradition, the wise question to ask about that little story is, who's going to come along beside and help rebuild and reconstruct and rehab? That's the wise question. Good news, that parable is just a story. It's not the final word on what happens when one's life comes falling down. And so I like to think about the fact that storms of life do come, and sometimes I make my own storms. And yes, that's because sometimes I don't always make wise choices like the parable is trying to get us to do. And even when I don't make wise choices, there's all this other confluence of things that are impacting my life and yours. And so when houses and lives fall down, where are those who will get in their hard hats and get into the reconstruction business? That's the course of wisdom. That's figuring out what matters the most. So there's that. And then the second thing, before we see Mary Oliver, I said that time is, our second thing that we'll pull in this thread of what matters most. There is in psychology a study called a time perspective theory. And the object of this is to help us cull out any toxicity we have in our view of time. Time perspective theory says, we all view time in past, present, and future, but how is it that what is it that we focus on the most? And running through it quickly, you'll be able to track with me so easily. Too much concern for the present, which is, I want the cake, I'm going to eat it now, and it is your birthday, so hey, I'm going to do that. And that too much of that, of course, ignores the lessons of the past, ignores the consequences of the future. Extreme concern for the past can turn us into people who are always longing for the good old days, make America great again, all of that stuff, or getting stuck in some debilitating negative memories of negative experiences. And these rob us of the joys of the present and the opportunities to build forward. You're tracking with me. Extreme focus on the future makes us workaholics. We're constantly reaching for goals. We're getting into the achievements, possibly, to the neglect of what matters most. Also, too much concern on the future in an extreme way can make us fearful of what might happen. And so we feel stuck. We feel lethargic, like sitting in a house with an umbrella up. And so all of these extreme mindsets can control our lives. And so what is needed is wisdom to recognize our extremes and to develop sort of a mental agility to move in and out of time perspectives as the situation demands. So I just want to ask you, what would it be like if you spent a little time today thinking about your own time perspective, since it is one of the things that matters most? What would it be like to sit and think, am I stuck? Am I stuck in past or present or future? Or am I flexible? I think it's worth some mental energy as we pursue wisdom. Well, now, let's look at Mary Oliver. She was an American poet. She died in 2019 at age 83. She won the Pulitzer Prize, the National Book Award. She was recognized as an accessible poet. And that means, in her own words, my words are not fancy. She speaks plainly, drawing connections between the natural world and the spiritual world. There's so much wisdom there. I will just add this. The highbrow poetry professionals and academics sometimes criticized her, looking down their nose at her as if a poem can't be good unless it's obtuse and difficult to understand. I'm guessing she laughed all the way to the bank about that one and all the way to the podium to get her Pulitzer Prize. So let's look at the first one. It's just, hang on just a minute. Most of her poems focus on nature, on trees, on birds, and all of that stuff. And she has great lines like, pine trees never forget their recipe for renewal. Isn't that great? I don't want to forget my recipe for renewal. She has great metaphors that describe so well the feelings that hang around in our heads and that long for words, like the black river of loss. She also asks great questions, and if you know Mary Oliver, I know you know this question. What is it you're going to do with your one wild and precious life? A good question, don't you think? All right, let's put the first one up here. This is just kind of a humorous bit of wisdom. You can see it, and I'll read it. I worried a lot. Will the garden grow? Will the rivers flow in the right direction? Will the earth turn as it was taught? And if not, how shall I correct it? Was I right? Was I wrong? Will I be forgiven? Can I do better? Will I ever be able to sing? Even the sparrows can do it, and I well am hopeless. Is my eyesight fading? Am I just imagining it? Am I going to get rheumatism, lockjaw, dementia? Finally, I saw that worrying had come to nothing, and I gave it up, and I took my old body out into the morning and sang. I love that one. It kind of speaks for itself. You know, Billy Collins, the great poet laureate of a few years back, said you should not tie a poem to a chair and torture a meaning out of it. So I'm not going to try to do that. You know, you need to sail across it, let it speak. But I am a teacher at heart, so I've got to talk about this next one, not yet. But I want to talk about this next poem. It's about a fellow human being. The narrator lets us know that she wants to write a poem, but the mundaneness of life interrupts, and she ends up showing us, Oliver shows us her wonderful recognition of the interplay between struggle and beauty. So let's look at this one. We get a lesson in common humanity. All right, we're ready for In Singapore. I keep saying it and not doing it. In Singapore, in the airport, a darkness was ripped from my eyes. In the women's restroom, one compartment stood open. A woman knelt there, washing something in a white bowl. Disgust argued in my stomach, and I felt in my pocket for my ticket. A poem should always have birds in it. Kingfishers, say, with their bold eyes and gaudy wings. Rivers are pleasant, and also trees. a waterfall, or if perhaps not that, a fountain rising and falling. A person wants to stand in a happy place in a poem. When the woman turned, I could not answer her face. Her beauty and her embarrassment struggled together, and neither could win. She smiled, and I smiled. What kind of nonsense is this? Everybody needs a job. Yes, a person wants to stand in a happy place in a poem. But first, we must watch her as she stares down at her labor, which is dull enough. She is washing the tops of the airport ashtrays as big as hubcaps with a blue rag. Her small hands turn the metal, scrubbing and rinsing. She does not work slowly nor quickly, but like a river. Her dark hair is like the wing of a bird. I don't doubt for 1 minute that she loves her life. And I want her to rise up from the crust and the slop and fly down to the river. But this probably won't happen. But maybe it will. If the world were only pain and logic, who would want it? Of course it isn't. Neither do I mean anything miraculous, but only the light that can shine out of a life. I mean the way she folded and refolded the blue cloth, the way her smile was only for my sake. I mean the way this poem is filled with trees and birds. It's interesting to me that the narrator, what she sees and the perspectives and the assumptions that she brings to seeing this woman create tension in her life. You see her, talking about reaching for her ticket. She wants to get away from this scene. It's unpleasant. She doesn't understand it. It seems like something she doesn't want to be doing. And yet, the longer she stands there, the more she sees. She argues back and forth with herself between what she intended to write about and what was actually there. This poem speaks to me of the various neighbors we have been given to love and the time we have in which we meet those neighbors. We have been given these chances to love, to appreciate, to really see someone. And maybe we get there by noticing them, by thinking about what their lives might be like, and of course, by remembering how much alike we all are. Like Maya Angelou said, we are more alike than different. I love that poem, and it just gives me pause every time I run across it, because the pursuit of wisdom, the pursuit of keeping in mind what matters the most, our wonderful relationships, even with those we barely see. Important to do another thing that Mary Oliver says. And now if we'll just skip to that very last one, please. One of my favorite lines of hers, instructions for life. Pay attention. Be astonished. Tell about it. Life is busy. It runs ahead of us, time. We run ahead of it, maybe. What if we paid attention? What would we see? We would see all the beauty. I love the songs you guys picked. We would see surprising things. We would see people. We would see disappointment on their faces. We would see joy turning up the corners of their mouths. And we could engage and be connected just a little more. And we will be astonished once we, get in a good habit of paying attention to those things that seem so ordinary and everyday. And then we'll have something good to tell about. I'm for that. Thank you.
And next, please stand if you're able and move to sing for our closing hymn. It'll be in our teal hymnal today, number 1064, Blue Boat. Our closing words today are Into the Sun-Washed Light, Reverend. Let us go out now into the sun-washed light of the blossoming world. May the inner light of our own being add its bright blessing to the dappled days, enhance the glow of night. The flame is extinguished, but not our hope for the future, our courage in the face of crisis, the love we share in all the world. Join me, finally, in our Go in peace, seeking justice. Go in peace, committed to equal rights and opportunities for all. Go in the peace that is created when together we build communities of true solidarity, deep compassion, fierce, unrelenting love. Go in peace. May it be so. Blessed be. And if anybody's curious about how to help sort of support Community UU Church after the whole thing last week, you can always check with our Social Justice Committee. Cindy Fountain is putting out information on how to best support them.